here and Banagher, and there were 3 horses in the field. One of them was standing up, eating. The other 2 were lying down on their sides, sunbathing, which was beautiful to see. You could see how much they were enjoying what creation offers us this morning. You know, when we were learning to preach, one thing they told us, one way to do it is this. I always like this. They said, when you're going to preach, it's 3 steps. Step 1, tell them what you're going to tell them. Step 2, tell them. Step 3, tell them what you told them. And that's the form I'm going to try to use this morning. So what am I going to tell you? This morning's gospel, one of Jesus' best stories, and Jesus was a very good storyteller. This parable of the 2 sons, the prodigal son, and the very generous and loving father. This parable is very good news to every generation of human beings, of men and women and children, of fathers and mothers, for all of us. Because it says to us, it places before us a question, really. And the question is this: am I willing to allow myself to be loved by God? Because God, without limit, desires to pour out the divine love onto and into the lives, hour by hour, of each one of us. Every human life has to come to a point, whether it be dramatic or not, when we come to ourselves, as the gospel says this morning of the younger son, there in the midst of the pigs and starving to death, he came to himself. That has been expressed in innumerable ways by innumerable human voices throughout all the years since Jesus first spoke this parable. And this morning I'm going to share a couple of those voices with us. There's a woman in the United States, a literature professor, a poet. Her name is Mary Karr. She'll turn 70 this year. This poem of hers is called Disgraceland. You know, if you are a fan of Elvis Presley, you know that his home was called Graceland. This is called Disgraceland. And it's a poem about her life until she came to the point of converting to Christ at 40 years of age. This is what she wrote. It starts at her birth. Before my first communion at 40, I clung to doubt as Satan, spider-like, stalked the orb of dark surrounding Eden for a wormhole into paradise. God has first formed me in the womb, small as a bite of burger. Once my lungs were done, he sailed a soul like a lit arrow to inflame me. Maybe that piercing made my howl at birth, or the masked creatures whose scalpel cut a lightning bolt to free me. I was hoisted by the heels and swatted, fed, and hauled through rooms. Time-lapse photos show my fingers grew past crayon outlines. My feet came to fill spike heels. Eventually, I lurched out to kiss the wrong mouths, get stewed, and sulk around. Christ always stood to one side with a glass of water. I swatted the sap away. When my thirst got great enough to ask, a stream welled up inside. Some jade wave buoyed me forward, and I found myself upright in the instant with a garden inside my own ribs aflourish. There the arbor leafs, the vines push out plump grapes. You are loved, someone said, "Take that and eat it." There's a lot in there. It's expressing what the novelist Graham Greene said in these words: "You cannot conceive, my child, nor can I or anyone else, the appalling strangeness of the mercy of God." That is, brothers and sisters, God's mercy, God's love is greater than anything we can ever see or recognize or imagine. And because that's true, it seems in each generation that most human beings refuse the gift. They think it can't be true or it's too overwhelming. We see that in Jesus' story. The younger son, all of us at one point in our lives, I believe, are all three of the major characters in this story. Most often we are one of the sons. We often start life at some point by being the younger son, who rebels against what has been in the past, who wants what will belong to him, even if he wants it early. He asks for his inheritance while his father is still alive, and his father gives it to him. Probably had to sell land in order to get the funds to give the son what was his. And then he runs away, and he has fun. And he wastes it until it's gone. And then circumstances change, as we learn over a lifetime. They always do in this world. And he finds himself penniless in a country in the midst of drought and famine, alone. He is a Jew, and he's hired to take care of pigs, the unclean animal, according to the Old Testament. He is alone. And there comes a moment finally. For him, it comes out of desperation when he, again, as the gospel says, when he came to himself. What does that mean? He recognized the truth of his own situation. He recognized who he is. And he recognized the depth of his need. And in response to all of that, he said, "I will return from whence I came to the Father who has always shown me love." Brothers and sisters, whenever in human life any of us come to ourselves, the mystery is that in coming to myself, I come to God. It's the same movement. That's how close God is to us, whether we recognize that or not. I have good friends, and I'm glad to have them because they teach me much, who are atheists, who don't believe there is any such thing as God at all. And yet, I believe, and I tell them this, which drives them batty, that although they don't believe God exists, God is as close to them as their own breath and loves them more deeply than the person in this world that loves them most completely. Thomas Merton, the Trappist monk of the last century, and many others have said that deep in me and you lives our true self. And before we come to ourselves at some point in life, we build up a false self, what we think other people want to see in us, what we think society wants us to be. And we put that false self out in front of us for others to see, and we hide the true self till maybe we don't even recognize our own true self. But there comes a moment when we come to ourselves, if we decide for our true selves and for God at that moment. As Paul tells us in his second letter to the Corinthians this morning, as we heard, whoever is in Christ is a new creation. And from that moment, the whole world that we look upon is a new creation. And so Mary Carr could say in her poem that when she finally stopped calling Christ a sap and hitting him away as he was offering her the waters of baptism, as soon as she changed and recognized our true self and invited him in, that water, as Jesus says in the 4th chapter of John's Gospel to the Samaritan woman at the well, that water becomes a font, a spring, welling up inside herself, God's own life in Mary Carr, God's own life in the younger son, God's own life constantly in you and I, and our sons and daughters and our friends and our enemies. Merton said, speaking of the true self, to say that I'm made in the image of God is to say that love is the reason for my existence. For God is love. Love is my true identity. Selflessness is my true self. Love is my true character. Love is my name. Love is your name. That's the change that happened to that younger son. That's the change that is invited to become real in each one of us. The question posed to us in life is, will we accept that gift or not? Think of the older son we heard about in the gospel this morning. Sometimes we're the older son. I actually am the older son, and I sympathize with him, because the younger son had said to the father, give me what's coming to me. He did, all that money, and he left and squandered all of it, which means that everything that still remained, that the father still had, belonged entirely by right, by law, to the older son. And yet when the younger son comes back, not only is he not shooed away, the father says, give him the best robe. Whose robe is that? The older brother's. Put a ring on his finger. Whose ring is that? The older brother's. Kill the fatted calf so that we can feast together. Whose fatted calf is that? The older brother's. He is, you'll excuse me for using the vernacular, pissed. And he has every right to be, as we understand human life. But that's okay. But the question, which Jesus does not tell us the story long enough to know, is, it's left as an open question because it's the question of our lives. Will he turn to come to himself, to accept the gift of God's love in his life or not? We do not know. When someone does make that turn, everything changes. As Paul again says, it's a new creation. And from that point, we become enabled to be channels of God's own love and mercy to one another. That's why Merton is able to say, love is my name, love is my vocation, love is my calling. That's true of all of us. And you know what? If you allow yourself to become that channel of God's love, brothers and sisters, you cannot be stopped. Howard Thurman, an African-American Episcopalian, a teacher of theology, a very wise man of the 20th century, he said this: what we're asked to do at that point is keep open the door of our hearts for the rest of our lives. What happens if we do? Here's what Howard Thurman says happens. This is your secret power. This is your secret power. Thurman says, here's a mystery. If sweeping through the door of my heart, there moves continually a genuine love for you, that's God's love through you, it bypasses all your hate and all your indifference and gets through to you, whoever you're pointing yourself at your center. You are powerless to do anything about it. You may keep alive the fires of your bitter heart, but they cannot get through to me. Underneath the surface of all the tension, something else is at work. And here's a beautiful sentence. He says, it is utterly impossible for you to keep another from loving you. Think about the truth of that. Somebody might love you who you disdain, but no matter what you do not have the power to stop them loving you. And when you accept the gift of God's love and allow that to flow through you, you walk through this world as a shining light of love. Most often, through all human history, through all the years of Christianity, hearing that promise, people inwardly say, I don't think so. It would be nice if that was true, but it can't be. And because so many respond in that way, it becomes difficult to experience this world as it's meant to be. This world as a place, as those 3 horses I saw this morning know this world. If you need something to eat, it's going to be there. If the sun is shining, there's a place to lie down and let it warm up your flank until you feel like nothing could ever be wrong. I conclude with a second poem by George Herbert, priest and poet, died in 1633. This is the third of 3 poems he wrote with the simple title, Love. And in this third poem, love, capital L, is God, is the Father we hear in the parable this morning. And his guest, his reluctant guest, is George Herbert and you and me. And listen to how love will not let us get away. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. But quick-eyed love, observing me grow slack from my first entrance in, drew nearer to me, sweetly questioning if I lacked anything. A guest, I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, you shall be he. I, the unkind, the ungrateful? Ah, my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand, and smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I? Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve. And know you not, says love, who bore the blame? My dear, then I will serve. You must sit down, says love, and taste my meat. So I did sit and eat. That meal to which George Herbert and all of us were invited, insisted that we come and sit and eat, is this meal, this body and blood we are about to witness at this altar table and consume and be consumed by. It is that same meal that Mary Carr learned about in the 40th year. In the closing lines of her poem, you are loved, someone said. Take that and eat it. And that, friends, beloved friends, channels of God's love, that is what we are about to do.